So Alex, you are at Science Capital are just launching a new hybrid approach to solving this pressing water crisis, the Water Philanthropy Fund. Tell me about that, how it's working, and what can other private equity investors or anyone really learn from what you're building?
So we started looking at the water philanthropy when we were out there looking in our private water investment platform, and we saw that the deal flow that we were getting, sometimes that capital could not come from private sources because of return profiles, but that the need for funding was massive, whether it was from a small municipality in Mississippi or some larger project that needed development. We just saw that private funding could not fulfill that void. So when we recognized that, we said, well, how can you actually solve that? What pools of capital business model can you find? And we started looking at philanthropy. And then as we were looking at philanthropy and what capital was available, we realized that the business model for water philanthropy tended to focus on much smaller projects. And it didn't have scale. And it didn't have the ability to deploy massive amounts of capital to it, which is really what it was needed, because the way that the water philanthropy funds were built, or where philanthropy was going to water, tended to be small. So we looked at ourselves and said, as private equity, that actually happens to be one of the things that private equity is very good at, which is scaling efficiencies and solving big problems with big pools of capital and not being afraid to say, I need 300 million, 400 million to solve it, which we fundamentally thought that's one of the solutions as part of the business model to solve it. And after that, we started saying, well, can there not be a hybrid philanthropy private equity model where we can leverage what we've built on our for-profit side in terms of deal flow, in terms of scaling, in terms of management, to apply and solve even more problems. So really compounding the impact that we're having certainly on the private side, but compounding that even more by bringing in pools of capital for philanthropy and for pools of capital that are more interested in that type of capital return as opposed to for-profit. The second layer that we found was that a lot of the philanthropic capital was actually not being deployed properly, because the pledge fund capital is, I need to deploy 300-400 million, in which case for water, they tended to be opportunities that were a few million. So we saw that there was an ability to unleash a lot of that pledge fund capital that is looking to solve the big problems with the right solutions in the most efficient way, which we believe our private capital philanthropy kind of business model works really well. In addition to it, we had the underlying deal flow specifically for water, which everyone knows is a very big global crisis. And putting all that together, we started thinking about it, and we'll be officially launching our water philanthropy fund in parallel with it. And I would say in the back of that,